Hello, welcome to the She Can Say It podcast. Tonight we are talking about dating after loss, whether it's divorce or grieving the loss of a loved one due to their passing. So we're going to share our experiences, some truths here about dating after loss and all that stuff. When I say truths, we are not playing. We not sitting up in here and we not making up no stories, none of that. We are going to tell the truth right now. Everyone on this podcast, all of my sisters, including myself, we are all single. Okay, so we just going to get started and we're going to talk about it. I am going to first start with asking Latrice to give some of her wisdom and experience before she try to just throw it back
Do
on
you want us to
somebody
introduce
else.
ourselves? Are we
All
good?
right, Latrice, kick it off for us, please.
Right. So I don't have any experience in dating. I still in the, I don't want to say I'm still in the well, I can't say that I'm not still in the grieving process. I am. I'm still in the grieving process. So, but I feel like I'm trying to figure out when is a good time to actually start dating. Also, how to approach the dating scene, and also somehow like maybe looking at dating, because like the way that I look at relationships now is not the way that I used to look at relationships. So it's all new and different for me. So I feel like those are good questions to kind of ask. When, um, how to approach it, and also like what are you actually looking for at this point? Because the things that you probably were looking for in the relationship that you were in, you're not looking for those same type of relationships most likely. And also, if you're like myself, I'm a widow, so I'm not looking for anything at this point, because now I'm trying to figure out how to approach approach of a friendship, or because I want to be friends with someone, but I don't know how to do that now because I've been in a stable, committed relationship, and my loss is like I've devoted myself to one individual for 20 years. So now I'm trying to find out and trying to feel myself, and then okay, how do I actually approach another human being? And when people do approach me, how do I respond? I can say this. People have approached me and I'm like, nah, I'm okay. Like that's how I am, because I don't really know how to respond. So I think I just feel like for myself, I don't know if I'm ready at this point right now. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to ever be ready. Who knows? I might be ready tomorrow. I don't know. But I just feel like right now I don't think I'm ready. So you guys can respond however you want to, but I'm still learning how to like actually approach it, and also trying to figure out when is the right time, because I don't really know. Yeah.
I just want to jump in with, I don't know that we ever shared what the topic is that we're talking about dating after loss. And so Latrice basically shared her view on her experience and just feeling like she's probably not ready yet. Maybe still having some healing to do. Maybe, well, like you said, you haven't been in the market for a long time, and things are very different now than they were 20 years ago. So just trying to figure out how to maneuver in this dating pool. And that's a part of what I'm working on in my dissertation about relationships between Black men and women. And there are so many different types of variables that hinder, because 80% of Black families are led by women. And we are the least likely to marry. And we have so many other exterior things that we deal with just in terms of disproportionate salaries, positions. Although we may be the most educated demographic, we make the least money in the workplace. We're lower than everybody else. And also another dynamic for Black women are the least likely to date outside of their race. So Black women typically, only like 7% of Black women will are marrying outside of their race, and 4% are married to white men. So for the most part, Black women are very loyal in dating Black men. They only see Black men as available to them. But the thing is, there's not enough Black men to go around. And it's not because they're not born. There's just as many Black men that's born than Black women, but we have a lot of variables that take Black men from our choices. And one is mass incarceration, and that was done intentionally to lock up Black men, and they have been very successful. And so we have a large percentage, a disproportionate percentage of Black men who are incarcerated. And they get longer sentences, and they get longer sentences for lesser crimes, if you will. The other thing is unemployment or lack of employment for Black men, because Black women, although they want a Black man, you have a population of Black women who will take a Black man, who will marry a Black man who's in jail, and be faithful to that Black man. And then you have another population of Black women who's okay with picking up a Black man who's unemployed, letting them drive their car, moving them into their apartment or their house, and basically kind of supporting the man. Mm-hmm. And then you have a population of women who will not accept that. They want their man to make more or to be the provider or whatever, image that they have or expectation that they have of a Black man. But Black men are much more willing to date outside of their race. They are willing to go out and get Asian women, white women, Latino women. They're much more open to that. They'll even go to other countries to meet women and marry. Then we have another dynamic. There's the mortality, high mortality. Black men have a very high mortality rate, which could be due to just their activities. Like it could be like violence or gang violence. Black men die at a much higher rate than other races. And it also could just be, being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it could be their health. Because Black men, as Black women, we have disparities in health. Because we don't have the same resources. So we can't afford to have the best healthcare in many cases. So we don't get the same care as other people. This goes across the board, Black women and Black men, but Black men in particular, because a lot of times they don't like going to the doctor. So they don't take care of themselves to that extent. And so Black men are much better off being married than not being married, because once they're married, their wives will, for the most part, make them go to the doctor. Their lifestyles change. So they're not always eating out, the woman will cook for them. They'll eat healthier. They'll make them go to the doctor. They'll monitor their alcohol intake, and their lifestyles will have to, simmer down and stuff like that. But it's just, unfortunately, most Black women, there's a high population of Black women who will never be married. And I think they've kind of accepted it. And that's why you'll hear a lot, they'll say, I'm happily single. I'm living my best life, or I have a lot more peace. Because in a lot of instances, when, the person that you marry is the most important decision that you'll make in your life, because that person theoretically will be with you for the rest of your life. And I know that 3 of us are divorced, so that's not how it wound up, But when you marry, theoretically, it's for life. And so and even if it was, for me, it was 16 years, whatever your length of time, it's a significant amount of time that you have partnered with someone, that you have started a family with, possibly, that you've shared your finances with, that you've shared your life with, your hopes, your dreams. You've opened up, you've been vulnerable with that person, you've trusted them for a number of years, and that matters. Close that door, please. Close the door. Close the door. Goodbye. It matters who you share your life with, because it's horrible. And like the movie Sleeping with the Enemy, it's horrible when you've been vulnerable with someone and then you find out that that's not the right person, because you've already been vulnerable, you've already opened up, you've already shared things with them. You've already shared your finances, you've already, they're your beneficiaries, they're you've already intertwined your life, and it takes a long time to undo that thing, and emotionally, because especially if you've been betrayed, and so you're angry and you go through all the stages, and it costs money to separate. You have assets and all the things, and it could be very ugly. Mine was not a pretty divorce. So it's a lot that goes on with who you decide to partner with and spend your life with, because we only have one life. We don't get a do-over. I don't get to say, well, those 20 years that I just spent with this person was the wrong person, so let me do it again. I don't get to do it again. And now, that I'm older, for me personally, I don't even get approached by anybody. I kind of feel like God has just got me on hold, because he's like, listen, finish your dissertation, then we'll talk. You ain't got time to date anyway. And so I don't know. At one point, I always thought I'd be married. I just always thought I'd have a partner. And so I felt like I'd find somebody else, somebody else would come along, but they haven't. They haven't. And, the reality is it may not happen. And I have to be okay with that. It's disappointing. I'm disappointed, but I have to keep moving. I mean, I can't not move forward because of it. I can't allow myself to go into a depression about it. It's not that serious. And I have to say, when women talk about it, I do have a lot more peace, and then when I hear about other relationships and, some of my, maybe not even friends, but maybe associates, and I'm like, oh, that's one thing I didn't have to deal with, because sometimes they do drain you. So is it it's not necessarily a bad thing to not have somebody, but in terms of, like Latrice's situation is different, because she was not divorced. She did not feel like, she didn't have a breakup. She's experienced a loss. So this is, had he not been sick, she'd still be with him. She was in it for the long term. She was happy in her marriage. She loved her husband. And, for whatever reason, God saw fit to call him home. She had to deal with that. I mean, that was like in the middle of life, they were raising their children together. So it's like, it all shattered, I mean, she knew he was sick, but, you're never prepared for loss. You're never going to be prepared for loss. And I'm sure it tore her up. And then on top of that, she had to be strong for the kids. So she didn't even get to mourn the way she needed to mourn for her, because at some point she had to save face. She had to, not cry right now, or, console her children who they might have been breaking down at a certain point where she wanted to break down too, but now she got to comfort them. So there's a lot of layers to the loss process.
I'm going to say I'm going to point out that part of not breaking down in front of the kids, but I think that's where I was actually breaking myself down. So because I was not breaking down in front of my children, they thought that I was not human. So I kind of had to get to a place of actually surrendering that and
Mhm.
actually breaking down in
Mhm.
front of them so that I could show them that I am human. I do have these emotions. And at that very present moment, when I did actually surrender that and broke down, it was like God came and was like, I wanted you to do this in the first place so that
Mhm.
I could show you that I was right here with you the whole entire time. Because I'm the type of person that walk around talking about, I got it. I'm all
Mhm.
right. I got it figured out. I don't need any help. I don't, we're good. And the way that depression and these things showed up in my life was not cooking, things like that. Like not eating,
Mhm.
making sure that the kids ate, but I wouldn't eat. I would sleep. So, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, yes, I felt like in the loss, there was something that I was not doing because I was not processing the emotion well enough. And nobody can, you don't plan to process your emotions. You just
Right.
have to go actually feel the emotions and go through it. So I had to learn that I didn't have to forget about my husband. I just had to deal with the loss and basically manage to continue to move on, even though we have a loss. And
Right.
that's why even when people like when they like I've had a couple of people approach me and like, hey, can I talk to you? And I'm like thinking to myself, like, no. Like, one, I'm not ready to hold a conversation with you.
Mhm.
Two, um, I don't know if you're, because as soon as somebody starts talking and something that sets it off, it's like, no, I'm all right. I'm okay. So the same thing that somebody might be looking for, I'm not looking for that any longer.
Mhm.
So and I don't want to continue to bring up scripture, but in a part of the scripture, it says, be content in the
Mhm.
state that you're in. So
Mhm.
with being content means that I'm okay with being single. But if God gives me the opportunity to be in a relationship, I will be okay with that as well. But now there's so much at stake here. So it's like my children. Now I got to be mindful about who I bring around them. I got to be mindful who I'm bringing in my home. I have to
Mhm.
be mindful whether or not the man that I decide that I want to deal with is serving Christ the way that I do. So these are things that I take in consideration when I am actually saying that, okay, I'm ready to date.
Mhm.
Well, I'll jump in here, I guess. My experience has definitely been different from Latrice's and Tisha's, but I'm probably the newest on the chopping block for getting a divorce. And we talk about loss and we talk about grief. And most people approach me and say, well, you're not healed. You're still broken. You're still bitter. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I had years prior to getting to this divorce point to grieve the loss because I felt like I lost it 8 years ago. And I just didn't have the courage to leave. And that was something that I had to work towards to get. And then I think Tisha made a point about, you don't want to make the same mistake twice. Like if you married, I felt as though I married the wrong person. Of course, I've always known that I am a wife. God made me to be a wife. So dating is really hard because there are some serial daters out here and I've come across some serial daters where they get a kick out of going out on 50 million dates and think they have it to a science that I'll just do this. And you playing with people's feelings and emotions. Like I already know that I am designed to be a wife. I am not designed to be a hoe. And we having a real conversation. I tried it. It ain't work. I am the wife. So I want my one person. God give me my one person. Let me be content with my one person. And the outside can be outside. But I've ran into people that don't have that same philosophy and they want to be outside with you, Susie, Pam, and everybody else.
You're
Um,
talking about the men.
yes. And
Mhm.
it's some women too. It is some women too. And it's just the mentality of feeling like they'll never get what they want or what they deserve. So if I can't beat them, let me join them.
Well, I
And
think men feel that they don't want to go through a divorce again if they are divorced because
Yes.
they lose out. They lose their money. They don't want to intertwine their money anymore. Like
Yep.
if they're 50s and 60s, they retiring and they're not trying to lose their money. So they're just like they'll date somebody. They might even live with a person and be in a couple, but they don't want to marry. So it's a hard thing. And then here's the big thing with an older man. They want a younger woman.
They absolutely do.
They want
And
younger women.
the thing is, it's like they don't want to die alone. That's a couple of people I've heard them say that. Like, I'm getting older and I'm divorced. I was divorced, but now I'm realizing that I want somebody to care for me. They not trying to find themselves in a Christina situation where she done took the money and ran, and you got to call the ex-wife to come and take care of you. Like, they don't want to be in that type of situation. They want somebody to be there to care for them. And it's just, you
But
know,
they don't know them young women don't want them.
they don't.
They
They
don't
don't.
want them.
They don't.
They having babies with them and they're dipping.
It
And
is
when they figure it out, then I guess they'll grow up and mature. I don't know. Well, they said that the women that their age, they don't find attractive. They don't think
or
there are women in their 50s and 60s or 70s who are attractive. We've all let ourselves go and we're not attractive. Well, I don't know who they looking at, but there's a lot of attractive
they
women.
want video vixens that
They
is
want
not
them young girls.
realistic. And it's
Yeah.
like you they with the new tools and pharmaceuticals that are on the market that are giving these individuals false hopes that this is what you think the younger now I can perform again like you used to. Like, you don't perform like you did in your 20s and 30s when you were in your 50s and 60s. That's just a fact.
Mhm.
And I think it just creates a series of illusions within the dating pool because they're of this age. And I know with me in the dating pool, I have a different set of expectations when you are 50 and above. I just do.
Mhm.
So I like Latrice said, you want something different than you do when you were in your 20s. Like, I was very probably superficial in my 20s, but now, I got things to think about. I got to think about my kids. I got to think about like growing old with somebody and retiring. What does that look like? I got to think about ambition. Um, I will say my dating after loss has looked like standards. Like, I have standards now. And I can say I have ran into some very interesting people in the dating realm. And I only know how to be one way. So I'm gonna be upfront, I'm gonna be honest. I've ran into people when, I would say I am currently going through a divorce. And again, I had the same mindset that I knew my marriage was over 8 years ago. It just took my actions to catch up with what I was feeling and what I was thinking. And some people have a problem with that. And I will say, like, I feel like in my world, in my dating world, I've run into some people that were very hypocritical and would want to judge me for dating and not having my divorce final, but then want to sleep with me. That doesn't work. You know,
Anytime they can get that, they're gonna get that.
yeah, like, no, that doesn't work. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so it's been a very interesting ride dating and trying to learn what to do. I never really had a problem with people approaching me because people approach me all the time. And then, like, Tisha, you talked about dating outside of your race. I am trying to explore that. It just hasn't seemed to work out that way. Um, in one of the maybe preconceived notions that I have is that what do we have in common? I can't, like, we don't live the same lifestyles. If I'm telling you that I need you to help me take my weave out, do you know what to do with that? Like
Well,
those are,
if they've dated Black women, there's some men that they only date Black women. So
is
there
that
they go.
that's true. But the problem is, if I'm gonna date, if honestly, if I'm gonna date a white man, he gonna be 90210 white. Like that. I need him to wear some shorts and some flip flops and some vineyard vine like that. That's what we doing. You can't have the J's on. Like, no, I need um what's the little shoes called? The them little shoes that they be wearing, them little boating shoes. The
Jesus,
boater shoes.
you talking about the Jesus shoes?
Yeah, yeah, them. I need you to have them on, some Birkenstock.
You need the Jesus sandals on, girl.
You
Yes,
said Jesus shoes.
yes. So, I'd be open to exploring. I do be open to exploring, but yeah, the dating has just been interesting, and I have tons. When I say I have tons of dating stories, I have tons. I've found people or not found people. I've tried dating apps, and people on the dating apps, like one person was like, basically they needed a caregiver and wasn't upfront with that. And I was like, that's not really my ministry. I know it's somebody out here for you that is willing to be the caregiver for you and comfort you until, you know, you heal or what have you. I'm just not her. Um, I have, I have this go around, I have a distinct height requirement. I mean, it just is what it is. And people just totally glaze and glance over that and be like, no, I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to be 5'2" and I'm going to still shoot my shot. And kindly got to say, I'm sorry, that just doesn't work for me. And these are my dating preferences. And I've learned, because honestly, I never really dated. I never really dated. I've always been in long-term relationships or I got married. I never really dated. So this time I'm trying to learn to date and know what I like, what I don't like, be able to say, hey, I'm sorry, this isn't working. Because now it's all about alignment. It is not about, oh, we look good together. That I might have said something like that when I was 20. Now it is alignment. If we are aligned, then we can continue. Even learning the difference between, because even when I was younger, I had no knowledge of the signs and symptoms of like controlling behavior and being like possessive. Like I used to think that was cute. Oh, girl, he really liked me because he jealous. No, that is low key crazy. And you can't do nothing with that. And it's even worse when they're in their 50s and you still exhibiting those types of behaviors because it signals that there's some work that he needs to do or whatever. So a lot of times you see a lot of men who have been through previous divorces and lost everything, filed bankruptcy, and they still hurt behind it. Um, so when it's time for them to date another woman, they don't take the lessons that they learned from their previous relationship and bring what you've learned and how to behave differently into your new one. And I think Latrice, this doesn't apply to you, but this very well may help somebody else. When I had come to the point of deciding that this is the time for me to leave my marriage and I know it's done. I asked myself, could I stand to see him with someone else? And when that answer became yes, then that's when I knew I was ready. I had let everything go. I wasn't bitter. And could I embrace this person? And I'm like, yes, I can embrace this person because the reality of life is some things just don't work out. And I'm okay with some things just don't work out. And everybody deserves to be happy. They deserve their shot. It's a right person. There's a match for everyone. So being open to that, I had to learn to be open to that. And when just knowing when to cut things off with people when you're not aligned or it's not working, you don't owe nobody anything. You owe it to yourself to make the good decisions, to choose you, honor you. Because you're divorced for a reason and you don't want to repeat the same patterns. So being more self-aware in dating after divorce or dating after loss is very beneficial to you because you are forging a new path. And this path hopefully will lead you to making a better and a right decision for you.
I'm glad she said that too, because just like Janelle was saying, it's new. Everything you do from this point on will be new. It will no longer be what you did 10 years ago, no longer be what you did 20 years ago. So it's all new for each of us, because the the transition, whether it is loss, grief, whether it is divorce, grief, it is still new. And everything that you do going forward will be a new, it's like a new way of you looking at life. So how you are dealing with things in your life, and also how you are, just like Janelle was saying, the way she the way that she date is no longer, oh, I'm just dating because you're a handsome person. No, I'm
Mhm.
dating because of alignment now. At this point, it's no longer I'm just dating because I think you look good. You're tall, dark, and handsome. Who cares? You might not
Right.
have common sense. You understand what I'm saying? You
Like
might
you
not be
crazy.
you might not be good with children.
Mhm.
Right.
Heck, you might not even have any. So therefore, no, tall, dark, that's nice.
It
But
is.
yeah,
Let's not negate that. It is.
but if we don't, yeah, if the other characters are not there, then yeah, no, you're gonna have to move around and move along like everybody else did.
Mhm.
So, that's why I just feel like everything is new from this point on. And that's why I've learned to, just like you were saying, Janelle, I'm learning to embrace the new Latrice. I'm learning to embrace the new things, to explore new things with my children. I'm learning to, okay, so you know what? I need a break. I need a break.
Yep.
I'm learning to embrace that. I'm learning to say, you know what? It's okay to be okay one day and not be okay the next day.
Yeah.
And that's still strength, because people will look at you and be like, oh, she's crying. She's not strong. She's weak. And who said that crying was weak?
Right.
So my thing is that I'm learning to embrace the strong in me and still be able to grieve and still be able to say, you know what? It's okay to do all of these things, and I still have strength. So, but yeah, all of it. I feel like all of it is just it's the new me, it's the new Janelle, it's the new Tisha, it's the new Erica. We're embracing the all new of us and walking in that, because at the end of the day, we're going to be approached with circumstances. We're going to be approached with something that is going to cause us to learn about us, and also the people that are approaching us.
Mhm.
So if we can embrace that, then we can, like I said, it is from up here is up and up. And it's like, as long as I can embrace that, and long as I can learn to love like nothing has ever happened, then I'm
Yeah.
going to be okay. And yes, I loved my husband. I did right by him. He's no longer here, and I have to embrace that too. I have to embrace that part that one day I will move on. One day I will get to a place where, as though God may provide me with someone, and I will have to love that man like he's like I didn't lose a husband.
Mhm.
So, at the end of the day, I'm just asking God to show me how to do it, because I don't want to approach it just because I feel like I need something in my life, because I don't need anything but God. But
Right.
I do need companionship.
Right.
I do need fellowship. I do need all of these things to learn how to embrace, because that's what God wanted me to do in the first place. He still wants me to love. He still wants me to nurture. He still wants me to give my love to those that he brings in my space. So I just need to learn how to do it well, the way that he's asking me to do it, and not hold myself hostage and say, no, I'm a widow. I'm not ready for that. Because when God does send somebody, it's not going to be, are you ready? It's, I'm sending you someone. Can you love them the way that I'm asking you to?
Right.
So